This could be the beginning of the end for the WNBA as we know it. Now, a little bit dramatic, but actually I don't really think so as much, because the WNBA's Players Association president and a 10-time WNBA All-Star Nneka Ogwumike has officially signed with Project B. This is a Saudi-backed, tech-funded basketball league that is promising salaries and equity deals that the WNBA just can't touch. And the reason why this is such breaking news, the reason why this is such a big deal, is that Nneka Ogwumike is not just any player. She is the woman leading the union in active CBA negotiations with the WNBA. So it's not just a question of why Nneka Ogwumike signed. It's a question about what happens now and what it means for the future of the WNBA and the future of women's basketball as a whole. So some of y'all may be wondering in the comments, you all may be like, hey, what's Project B? Well, let's get into Project B. Let's get into it. All right. Project B is a global women's basketball league that is supposed to launch in November of 2026, and it's going to run through 2027, meaning it will not directly overlap with the WNBA season, at least for the first season, at least for now, at least. The structure will be similar to a sort of traveling F1 tournament circuit. You got 6 teams, 11 players on each team competing across Asia, Europe, North and South America. You can kind of think of it as golf or tennis or F1 meets basketball. Here's a quote specifically from Alana Beard, a basketball legend. She is the chief basketball officer for Project B. She says, quote, "We want premier cities and our goal is to create an F1 TV event. There's a tournament in each city, and at the end of each tournament, there's going to be a champion. And that all leads up to us potentially crowning the champion of the world." Kind of cool, right? Kind of cool, interesting. And get this, the players in this league, at least to start off, they're getting equity, guys. They're getting equity. This is not a thing where they're just getting a salary. They're getting salary plus equity. And supposedly the salaries, again, according to Alana Beard, she says they're unmatched anywhere in the sport of women's basketball. Here's her words specifically. She says, quote, "I'm not going to get into the numbers on any of this stuff, but I can say this deal surpasses anything on the market today. It's consistent with the trajectory and explosion of what we're seeing in women's basketball. Nothing comes close to what we are offering these players. It's not to be arrogant, it's to basically position these women to receive what they absolutely deserve for the value they have created and create on a daily basis." So we talking big money. What a quote, okay? It's giving these women, quote, what they absolutely deserve for the value they have created and create on a daily basis. Now, again, you've heard me say Alana Beard. If that name sounds very familiar, well, it's because she's literally a living legend. Talking WNBA champion, 4-time All-Star, 2-time Defensive Player of the Year. Like, she was a lockdown defender. In college, she was fantastic. Wooden Award recipient, Wade Trophy winner. Like, Alana Beard, she was a absolute hooper who knows a lot about the WNBA. She knows a lot about the structure of the WNBA, the players who play in the league, their motivations. And now she is helping to lead the WNBA's biggest competitor yet in Project B. Now, it's not just Alana Beard who's a part of this thing. And yes, she is a graduate of Duke. Yes, Molly. Yes. Here's the thing. We also have some big name investors. Some big name investors, including Alana Beard's previous teammate in Candace Parker, who is invested in Project B. And Candace said, quote, "For too long, players have carried the game without a real stake in its future, and women especially have been asked to wait for change. Project B is not waiting. They're building the future in a global league where athletes have equity, shape the direction of the sports, and bring fans everywhere into the movement." So again, you got some basketball heavyweights that are backing this Project B thing. Now, Project B is not going to be the actual name of the league. We don't know the name of the league right now. They're just calling it Project B. So that's why I'm calling it Project B. In the future, probably in the next couple months, we'll probably find out the real name of Project B. But again, you got Alana Beard, you got Candace Parker, and you got other investors like Novak Djokovic, Sloane Stephens, Steve Young, and one of their future partners for Project B is called Sela, S-E-L-A. It is backed. It is a company that is backed by the Saudi Arabian Sovereign Wealth Fund. So the reason why people keep saying this is a Saudi-backed league is because Sela, S-E-L-A, is going to be one of the future partners of Project B, and that is backed by the Saudi Arabian Sovereign Wealth Fund, which is a lot of money, okay? A lot of money, which is why they can probably agree to certain deals with players, right? And so you all may be wondering, okay, new league, it's going to be coming out next year. It's not technically going to be during the WNBA season, but it's right after, and it is a competitor. You all may be wondering, okay, Nneka Ogwumike, the WNBA Players Association president, she has joined not Unrivaled, but Project B. Why? Why did she join? Well, to be clear, Nneka Ogwumike is not the only WNBA player signed to Project B. But the announcement of Nneka Ogwumike yesterday being a part of Project B is very strategic. Extremely strategic. We'll get into more of that as to why that is in a little bit. But I did just want to be clear, Nneka Ogwumike is not the only player assigned to Project B, because according to Alana Beard, she said that the league has signed, quote, multiple current WNBA All-Star players who have received those honors, young superstars who are on the rise, and players from 4 different continents. Okay? So, multiple current all WNBA players are in Project B already. We just don't know their names yet. We don't know their names, but again, according to Alana Beard, multiple all WNBA All-Star players, or all WNBA players, young superstars who are on the rise, and players from 4 different continents. So let's talk about the decision for specifically Nneka to join Project B. So Nneka ended up telling the Associated Press that the reason for her going to play for Project B is kind of simple. It's about equity, guys. Nneka Ogwumike said, quote, "For there to be an entry-level equity across the board was eye-catching. It's something I stand for, obviously." And so here's the thing. Here is the thing. This is a very consistent thing that Nneka Ogwumike and other players in the union have been trying to fight for. More revenue share, right? More transparency, more player involvement over the business that they helped build. That's what Nneka and the others in the union have been trying to fight for in this CBA negotiation that's still going on, guys. Still happening. And so, to me, the move to join Project B and make this announcement at this moment, when there are other players who have already signed that have not been publicly revealed, it shows that this is not just a personal move for Nneka Ogwumike. It's a political one. It is. Not in a political, like, national politics type of sense, but like politics as in strategy between the players and the WNBA. This is a political move. This is sending a message that if the WNBA won't pay players what they are worth, someone else will, and the top players in the WNBA will go to those other opportunities. And yes, sure, they'll do the WNBA, but eventually the WNBA will start to bleed players. This is extremely political, extremely strategic. The fact that now you have 3 players, or actually 4 players in your as a part of the executive team for the union that are now in other leagues. Nneka Ogwumike, the president, with Project B. You got Breanna Stewart and Nafisa Collier as vice presidents for the Players Association, and they're the heads of Unrivaled. You got Kelsey Plum also, who is a player in Unrivaled. And so this is getting to an interesting point, guys. This is getting to an interesting point, and it's getting to what is rightfully a conflict of interest, possibly. Because here's where it gets a little bit messy. As I said, Nneka Ogwumike is not just any player testing a new league. No, she is the sitting president of the WNBPA, the person leading players through tense collective bargaining negotiations with Kathy Engelbert and the league. Her signing with Project B, a rival league, does raise some questions. It does. It does raise some questions that we got to talk about. You know, how it's hard, difficult, I think, to negotiate in good faith with the WNBA while signing a deal with a competitor that's actively trying to recruit WNBA players. It's tough, especially when 3 other vice presidents, again, Breanna, Nafisa, Kelsey, are connected with a rival league like Unrivaled. Here's the thing. I don't think this is a thing where, this is not Quita saying, Nneka needs to get removed from her post, or same thing for Breanna or Stewie or Breanna or Stewie. Well, same thing for Stewie or Nafisa or Kelsey. Like that's not what I'm saying. But what I'm saying is I do think it's important to acknowledge that there is a conflict of interest. You got to acknowledge that. Okay? We're at the moment where a large amount of the leadership of the WNBPA is tied to leagues outside of the WNBA, right? And they are actively pushing for the WNBA to do more and are using the other leagues, Unrivaled and Project B, to basically point out the WNBA's failures, right? This is not just a new opportunity. This is a strategic power shift. And if I'm honest, it's about time. It's about time. Because what happens when there is a monopoly? What happens? When you have a monopoly, you dictate the rules. You dictate what happens. And everybody else has to deal with it. Like you don't have the players didn't totally have a real choice because the WNBA was really the best game in town. It really was, especially since the demise of like Russian money in women's basketball. As once that was over, yeah, it really is the WNBA. Like even if you go overseas in Europe, they're not paying as much as they used to, supposedly. And so, yeah, man, like the WNBA had a monopoly for a long time. Now, and they got content on that monopoly. They were just sitting and just, sure, giving players some stuff, but not really evolving to the level what players want to. And so, therefore, we start to see newer players in the market, Athletes Unlimited, which ended up partnering with the WNBA, which is why I'm not focusing so much on on Athletes Unlimited, because they do have an agreement with the WNBA. Then you have Unrivaled, who tried to get the WNBA to invest and participate, but the WNBA said no. And Unrivaled said, okay, we're taking our ball and we're going to dominate. Okay, we're taking our ball and going home, and we're going to go to Miami and we're going to dominate, and we're going to show y'all. We're going to show y'all. And then you have Project B that's coming out and saying, yes, we see the rise in women's basketball. We see what they're doing, and we believe that we can take women's basketball to bigger heights. and we believe that we can beat the WNBA. Yes, our season technically is outside of the WNBA's window in terms of games, but make no mistake, this is a big time competitor, big time, because the product, meaning the players, are the same. They're the same players. It's a big stinking deal. So let's kind of zoom out. I kind of talked about this a little bit, but let's zoom out even more. Let's talk about the bigger picture. There is a dramatic power shift happening in women's basketball. Project B is not trying to replace the WNBA, at least not yet. But it is clearly designed to show the next generation, really, what women's basketball economics could look like. Global, player-owned, tech-driven, and extremely well-funded. That could lead to a massive, massive, massive success when it comes to the future of the sport of women's basketball. Imagine various stops in cities all across the world sort of having this be a thing that's on people's calendars. Here's the thing, F1, y'all know how, well, if you don't know how big F1 is huge, absolutely huge, and they do tours all across the globe. And you have millions and millions of fans that are literally watching everything they do. F1 is not exclusively in America, right? If you look at, it's a similar thing with golf and tennis. These are not strictly American things. They have tournaments, matches all over the world, and it's big time. So the idea of basketball being basically it's just an America type of thing, and sometimes we may go to countries here and there. The idea that basketball is still very specific to being in America. I mean, guys, this is a global game. This is a global world. And I really think that the future is going to be that. Now, you can say, well, golf is an individual sport. You can say, well, tennis is an individual sport. You can say F1 is largely individually based. Yes, but I do think that Project B is going to kind of show that it is possible to do that F1 style, that golf style, that tennis style. It's possible to do that with a team. That's basically what they're trying to do. And they're going to handle kind of like the global side of things. And then you have Unrivaled already running in the US. There's a lot of questions that start to come up. One huge question is, how many rival leagues can the women's basketball ecosystem handle before one of them, possibly the WNBA, starts to crumble under its own weight? Because here's the thing, if your biggest stars, your MVPs, your union leaders are signing deals elsewhere, the message to younger players is kind of simple. You don't need the WNBA to make it. You don't need the WNBA to have a really good career playing professional women's basketball. You don't. And honestly, guys, this is a very dangerous place to be. Very, very, very dangerous place to be. And I want to make sure that people who are kind of newer to women's basketball, I don't want you to think that that there was never any other options for WNBA players, because overseas is a thing and it has been for a long time. And you remember when Diana Taurasi was given what, $1 million or something like that to skip a WNBA season with Spartak, her Russian team. It's not unheard of for players to get great opportunities overseas. But the difference here is that they were like basically oligarchs who like had a lot of money and like specifically would use WNBA teams as like vanity projects and whatnot. And it wasn't really seen as like a money-making thing for the teams itself. It was a money-making thing for the players, of course, but that has kind of shifted with time and with like just people sort of getting out of the field. And with how even more technology has grown the sport of women's basketball, there is a opportunity in the market for a Project B to swoop in and take over, because players won't be stuck, quote unquote, stuck in Europe the entire offseason. They might be in France one week, 2 weeks later, they might be in London. 2 weeks after that, they might be in New York. It allows for more movement for players who may want to travel, may want to see different people, may just want to see different environments. It allows for more travel. It allows for more money. And it's also allowing for equity, which is kind of awesome. So, yeah. Women's basketball is at a crossroads. And whether you see Nneka Ogwumike's move as betrayal or evolution, it depends on how you view the WNBA's role in the global game. Nneka Ogwumike is betting on equity, innovation, the future. And she might be right that Project B is the way to go. And this could possibly spark a mass player migration while the WNBA is still struggling to close its CBA deal. We could be watching the first domino of multiple dominoes in a major shift. Could be good for the WNBA, but if they don't change and change fast and get with the program, it's going to wind up being a cautionary tale. A cautionary tale. Either way, women's basketball is about to change again, and I can't wait to see it. I cannot wait to see it. Whatever happens, make sure to subscribe to the channel for more, news, analysis, conversation about what in the world is happening in women's basketball. Now, let's get to y'all comments, okay? So I've been talking for a while. Hopefully, I've given y'all a clearer picture of what is going on. We don't have all the details for Project B. We don't. But this is what we know as of right now, okay? Thank you so much to Annette for the super chat. I really, really appreciate it. Thank you so much for your support of the channel. Henry says there is no women's hoops without the high school, college, WNBA conveyor belt. Yeah. I mean, that has helped to create these superstars. Here's the thing. High school hype has helped to evolve college hype. And college hype has helped to evolve and grow the WNBA. I think, Henry, I do think you're on something. You're onto something. That the future of the continued growth of women's basketball has to do with this pipeline a little bit. Yeah. I don't agree. I do not disagree with that at all, Henry. I do think that could be one of those things where you don't really see the effects of it until further down the line. But remember, guys, Juju Watkins, before she even stepped foot in college, was a big stinking deal in high school. Same thing with Paige. Same thing with Caitlin. And then we saw, Caitlin, for example, come into the WNBA and how that helped even more to grow the game of women's basketball. And so, yeah, I do think that could come to bite the future of women's basketball, maybe in the future. But for the now, for the players who already have a name, who already have a reputation, they might not care as much. They might not care as much. But yes, Henry, I do think you're on something. I do think you have a point. Jamie says, I think it's amazing for WNBA women to have more leagues to showcase. Yeah. It is a new dawn. It's a new day. Sandeep says, if Caitlin Clark agrees to an 8-figure contract, WNBA will fall. Meaning if she agrees to that type of contract with Project B. Brandon, she was in Iowa. She was in Iowa. And she stayed in Iowa, which is why that high school hype, she basically took it with her to the University of Iowa. No, she wasn't big hype outside of the state of Iowa in high school, but in the state of Iowa, she was a big stinking deal in high school. And then she chose to go to school in Iowa, and so that hype just developed. Like it just did. So no, not nationwide. At least I don't think she was nationwide, but in Iowa, absolutely. And she went to school in Iowa. So that's what I'm talking about. But thanks for allowing me to clarify that. All right. Let's see. Callie says, what does this mean for Unrivaled? Well, this means that Unrivaled is going to lose players as well. While Project B, it's outside of the WNBA window, it is absolutely taking over Unrivaled. And so you could see a situation where players who are really good, who could have been in Unrivaled, maybe some of those players are choosing Project B instead. It makes me wonder. Now, full speculation, no proof, but what if a player like Angel goes to play for Project B, right? What if? Just saying. I'm just saying, because again, Alana Beard said that they've already signed other players, other WNBA players, other top WNBA players, other young WNBA players. We just don't know them. We don't know their names just yet. But they specifically wanted to start with the president of the Players Association, Nneka Ogwumike. That's who they wanted to start with. Strategy. Callie says, I feel like you're already seeing that shift with Unrivaled. Yeah, possibly. Hey, CT. Yeah, possibly. And here's the thing. Who's to say that Project B doesn't force Unrivaled to shift even more when it comes to next season, right? Because next season, not this upcoming season for Unrivaled, but the following season, hey, there's going to be a change. Because in 2020, in November of 2026, Project B, with its real name, is going to debut. And it's going to run until April of 2027, which covers the full Unrivaled season. So yes, some players might not play in Unrivaled come 2027 because of Project B. Now, again, this is a whole lot of popcorn right now, right? Yeah, Cali Direct. This is going to be interesting to see. All we got to look forward to is to sit back and watch everything unfold.